Warning: the Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern. and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity.
Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
Good afternoon, race fans. Welcome here to the Charlotte Roval, as it's our 20th stop on the season here, Season 6 of the NNSCRA Duracell Cup Series. It's the third of our 5 showcase races, so you're getting the 2 races for the price of 1. We'll have the showcase drivers go out onto the racetrack here for 17 laps. No cautions, by the way. It will be local yellows only. So our editing crew will be definitely hard at work to bring you any split cam footage that may be necessary. But the 17 laps, once they are concluded, where these showcase drivers finish determines where the primary drivers will line up, and this is definitely going to be a race of track position. We will have 1 pit stop in the middle of this showcase race, so drivers will have to execute that and kind of formulate when they want to make said green flag pit stop. Do they want to do it when the fuel window opens to make it the rest of the way, or do they want to do it at the very end and maybe do a splash and go? We'll wait and see what the strategy is going to be in that regard, but also bear in mind, these drivers here in this 42 car field, they're all battling for 1 position and 1 position only. That is P1 in the standings, because at the conclusion of our Bristol Dirt race later on this year, 1 driver will have a guaranteed spot in next year's Duracell Cup Series field. You take a look at the not the playoffs, but the point standings coming into this race for your top 10 drivers. Your 2 former winners are at the top of the board. Will Goss, who won back at the Dodge Motor Dome, and Tyler Gerdes, who won back at Dover. They right now are at the top, 7-point separation. Logan Williams, Cat Batts, and Matthew Rodriguez right now the top 5, with Nick Barney, Colin Cropley, Austin Colano, Charles Belding, and Adam Garcia the top 10, 34 points, separating the top 10 coming into today's race. On the front row for this event, it's going to be the Mazda, the number 55 out of Fortnite Squad Racing, Zach Rogers, capturing the pole position. Zach is looking for his first win, obviously, here in the Showcase Series, and he is currently positioned 24th in the standings. With only 5 races, it is possible to get yourself up into the championship battle, even in a comeback of 2 or 3 races. And Zach Rogers, despite the fact he's outside the top 20 in points right now, if he were to have a win here today or a top 5, followed up with a top 5 the next time out, we could definitely see him up in the championship battle. He's alongside of the 74 out of Lake Effect Autosport, Alexander Rowe. Alexander comes into this race 31st in the point standings. So a couple of drivers that haven't gotten off quite to the start that they were looking for here in the first 2 races of the Showcase Series might be able to get some maximum points here today and get right back into that championship hunt. But it's time to go down trackside. Time to get those famous words in motorsports and go racing here today at the Roval.
Drivers, start your engines!
Right side of your screen, you'll see the starting lineup for the showcase race. As mentioned, 17 laps of racing. There will not be any full course yellows, either here or in the main event race coming up later on today. Charlotte Roval, for a number of seasons, was a playoff race. It was the middle race, if I recall correctly, of the round of 12, but has since been relegated up here to the regular season, and a couple of new features with the showcase drivers being here, and as mentioned, no cautions. If you were looking at your starting lineup, a couple of names that kind of jump out to me that did not get very good qualifying efforts today. Cat Batson, 4th in points, going to start all the way back in 37th, and last time out's winner, Tyler Gerdes from Dover. He's going to start 41st on the field here today. Now, with that pit stop that we know the drivers are going to have to make, there is the possibility that maybe pit strategy could gain drivers track position before all is said and done, but usually at the road course, if you qualify up at the front, the odds are very much in favor of you finishing up at the front, especially with the fact of us not having cautions in this race. The field's not going to get any really opportunity to bunch back up and give drivers opportunity to gain 1, 2, 3 spots on restarts. Showcase drivers, the showcase races, have definitely played their part into translating who goes to victory lane later on in the main event races. If we go back to the Dodge Motordrome race, Will Goss went to victory lane. That put RJ Bishop on the pole, and RJ finished in the top 5 in that race. And then at Dover, of course, it was Joanna Motorsports sweeping that weekend with the number 89 team. Tyler Gerdes went coast-to-coast pole to win in the showcase race. Quentin Moore went coast-to-coast pole to win for his first career Duracell Cup Series victory in the main event. So, as you look at the drivers up here towards the front, you've got to think that Nick Gunther and Benjamin Snyder, RJ Bishop, Benjamin Miles, Samuel Ryder, Jose Mills, right now they're all liking what they're seeing with the good starting track position that the showcase drivers have, at least here at the very start of the race. But will they have it by the time this race is over? We shall have to wait and see. Down into the final dog leg here. They'll make the left to right hand turn. Hit the start finish line, and Zach Rogers, his Mazda, will lead us to the green. And we're underway at the Roval. Zach Rogers cleared to the lead. Rowe moves into second. And now Will Goss will get by Jack Mitchell for the 3rd spot. Bradley Ream in that bright red number 63. He was looking 3 wide when they headed into the left-hand turn number 1. But now he's in a battle for the 5th spot with the 38 of Jordan Lopez, the former Duracell Cup Series champ. And Ream will take the position out of Speedway turn 2. Contact right there, little bumping. Jack Mitchell into the back of Will Goss. Mitchell nearly ended up going around there. Rear tires sliding. Lopez going to get around Bradley Ream, move him up into the top 5, and now you got the 65 of Tatiana Negera challenging for 6th. Matthew Rodriguez right there in the 48. The 88 of William Brock looking to his inside. Not quite completing the pass is William Brock. Rodriguez battles back. This is right now for the 8th position between the 2 drivers out of Northeast Motorsports. Matthew Rodriguez, 5th in the point standings, had a great run back at Dover. Jumped up 10 spots in the standings and trying to make his way back into the Duracell Cup Series full time. Good battle behind them as well. 13 of Mike Tellier on the top, and on the inside, Harrison Ponder in the 99. That's for 9th place as Rodriguez around the top is going to hold on to P7. Correction, P8. Mitchell continuing to hound Will Goss for that third spot. And they're both in turn starting to reel in the 74 of Alexander Rowe. And Zach Rogers has pulled away. Last time by, he had 1.2 seconds between himself and the 74. Let's see what his lap time is this time, see if it's any faster than the previous lap. Yeah, it is, 1:23.3. That's a really good lap time for him, but a 1:22.9 for Alexander Rowe. Yet he wasn't able to really reel in the 55. Instead, he got reeled in by the 98 of Will Goss for that runner-up spot. Good four-way battle here. Add Jack Mitchell and Jordan Lopez into this. And let's listen in to how these drivers make their way around this Charlotte Roval. Is a little wide there for Jordan Lopez. Let's go on board with the former Duracell Cup Series champion. Alexander Rowe has caught Zach Rogers, and he is putting pressure on the 55 for the race lead. He's brought Will Goss along with him. Mazda and two Fords, your top three. Then the Chevrolet of Mitchell, the Ford of Lopez, another Ford and Bradley Ream, and then the Chevrolet of Tatiana Noguera. Rogers very good through the road course section there. Gaps a little bit back to Alexander Rowe. Now it's a battle maybe between Rowe and Goss for the second spot. But both Rowe and Goss were good through the chicane, the backstretch chicane. And they're going to keep in touch, at least for the moment, with that 55. Let's drop back and see about some of those drivers I mentioned that were running well in the point standings but did not have the benefit of good starting track position. Namely, last time out's winner, Tyler Gerdes in the 89. He started this race from 41st. Let's see if he's made any forward progress, and it looks like he has. It's up now to 35th. Trying to make his way up to Ryan Acosta in the 87. So he's picked up 6 spots since the drop of the green flag. Just ran his fastest lap of the race, and they're battling hard up ahead, double wide in a couple of areas, so that's going to allow him to be able to close up. It's Yate Terzic and Henry Sanford. Actually, correction, that's actually the 03. Got the wrong S3 Motorsports car. That's Josh Things, actually. Henry Sanford is the car behind the 08. Up ahead of them, got a good spirited battle that just settled out between Trey Wright in the 83, Jacob Thibodeau in the 70, and Charles Belding in the 61. Ninth in points, Charles Belding, right now in the 29th position. Just ahead of his teammate in the 19, Andre Montagny. It's Colin Cropley in the 22, right now in 24th. 7th in the standings coming into this race. Just ahead of him, Logan Williams in the 24 car. 3rd in points, 20 points out of the points lead, trying to put the pressure on the 09 of Stephen Pollard III. Actually, correction, that's Bernardo de Oliveira, making his second start on the season. there's Colano in the 47. 15th place right now for him. Austin Colano, former Duracell Cup Series Rookie of the Year. 8th in overall points coming into this one. And just ahead of him is Nick Barney in the 12. 6th in points. Not too far behind his Young Motorsports teammate in the 2, Adam Garcia, 10th in the point standings. There's the 2 car. Last time by, crossed the line in P12 as Mike Tellier showing the nose on Harrison Ponder there for the final spot inside the top 10. Ponder will hold him off through the backstretch chicane, at least for the time being. Our top 3, you could throw the blanket over them before we broke away. Now they've spaced out again. Rogers about 2.5 car lengths back to Alexander Rowe, then another 4 car lengths back to Will Goss. Looks like the battle for 4th place may start heating up. Jordan Lopez reeling in Jack Mitchell. Bradley Ream about to be under pressure from Tatiana Noguera. Maybe Matthew Rodriguez will start entering into that battle as well and make it a 3-man fight for the 6th position. Right now, of the drivers up inside of the top 10 in points, the ones that are looking like they would be in line currently for good points days would be Will Goss, Matthew Rodriguez, Nick Barney, and Austin Colano, and then maybe also Adam Garcia. For drivers that are trying to make their way into the championship battle, I'm looking at Tatiana Noguera and Jordan Lopez to be 2 that could make some big strides today as the teammates mix it up again. Brock and Rodriguez. Brock goes way wide through the backstretch chicane, but Noguera came into this race 13th in points. Jordan Lopez came into this race 15th. In points. And both could find themselves up inside the top 10 before this race is over. Well, I should say after this race is over. Zach Rogers has so far led every single lap after starting on the pole. Lap times are starting to taper off though. This track is very slick on the tires. The sun's been bathing this racetrack all day long. That's why we're starting to see a little bit of slipping and sliding now. 74 just had a moment through turns 2 and 3. These drivers are right now already running about 2 seconds slower than their fastest laps. They would be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel if they were to come to pit road now. Fuel window was roughly about 14 to 15 laps, so they could have come to pit road as soon as lap 3 or 4 if they wanted to, and that would have been their final pit stop of the day. But I think these drivers are of the thought process with the slipping and sliding we're seeing already as we got a battle maybe for second. Goss showed the nose, but not going to culminate anything through this chicane. It kind of seems like you want to run it as far as you possibly can. Come to pit road as late as possible and then have maybe 2 or 3 laps out there on fresh Goodyear tires. Hot lap it for the final few laps of this race. It's a matter of getting on pit road, maintaining pit road speed, and make sure your pit crew doesn't make any mistakes. Most of the drivers up here at the front started at the front, so they would have the pit stalls up near pit road exit. Means things could be very, very close. Literally could be stall next to stall in terms of who's going to win the battle off of pit road and who's going to end up taking the checkered flag here in the showcase race. Zach Rogers, former Final Four contender. Was in the Final Four, I believe, twice in his Duracell Cup Series career, but never got the big prize. Very good road course racer, as is the driver that he'll be handing the reins over to once this race is done. Nick Gunther. Gunther, of course, getting a win in that Mazda back at Sonoma. And if Zach Rogers can hold on and close out the deal here, Nick Gunther would be starting on the pole position. We talked about how track position at the Charlotte Roval is very, very crucial. And now Rogers is coming to pit road. We are just past the halfway point, so these drivers are electing to come to pit road here, splitting this showcase race in half. Let's see if anybody elects to stay out an extra lap, or are they all going to come to pit road this time? Doesn't look like anybody's rolling the dice. Oh, someone is. Who is that? It's Matt McIntyre in the 31. He was 22nd last time by, so we'll see how this translates for the Fortnite Squad racing driver. Looks like a couple of other drivers did elect to stay out from further back in the field. We'll document them in just a minute. Wait till they get past pit road and past the field that we're on pit lane. Jacob Thibodeau in the 70, Trey Wright, Josh Things, Austin Pinkney in the 19, and looks like Tyler Gerdes, Trent Dunham, Christina Bell, and Dylan Matthews all elected the strategy of staying out at least one extra lap. Zach Rogers won the battle off of pit road. Will Goss came out in second, leapfrogging Alexander Rose. So now Will is going to be the one to try and reel in the 55, and we'll see if these drivers, if they're going to come to pit road this next lap, as we got drivers just now leaving pit road. That was the 39, it looked like. Kat Batson, who was just leaving, and Kat came into this race fourth in overall points. So it looks like she's going to have very good track position once this thing cycles around, as McIntyre is going to come to pit lane. So McIntyre, let's remember, was 22nd the last time they crossed the line before all of those leaders hit pit road. We'll have to wait and see where he cycles around. Is it going to be a net gain? Zach Rogers going to come around now, and I believe this is to take the race lead back. Did Matt McIntyre lead the lap or not? I'm not certain. If his pit stall was past the start-finish line, he led the lap. Otherwise, Zach Rogers might have just led the lap despite being on pit road the lap before. Yeah, he did. He did lead that lap. So Matt McIntyre didn't even get a bonus point for a lap led there. And he will obviously not be coming out as the race leader. Just checked lap times here. First out lap for both the 55 and the 98. Advantage to Zach Rogers, but only by 6 100ths. And remember, near the end of the run, Alexander Rowe and Will Goss, they had started to reel in the 55. So Zach Rogers is going to have to take care of his tires this time. Make sure that he manages the gap between himself and Will, who's looking for his second win in 3 showcase races. Points leader coming into this race, trying to take a stranglehold on the point stands as things are very, very spread out. Alexander Rowe and Jordan Lopez right now in 3rd and 4th. The battle is on for 5th. Tatiana Noguera has it. Matthew Rodriguez wants it. Bradley Ream lost a couple of spots on pit road. He's now back to 7th. Harrison Ponder in 8th. Mike Tellier in 9th. And Adam Garcia would currently be in the 10th position. We're waiting for Ticker to update because it scored Matt McIntyre in 10th last time by, as extended stay on pit road for the 88 of William Brock, and he was battling with Matthew Rodriguez up inside of the top 10 we saw in the early portions of this race. So you guys have probably already seen what happened to William Brock to sustain that right side damage courtesy of the adversary split cam. That's a tough break there for William, who came into this race 20th in point standings. And he will certainly be more than likely free-falling through the points after this one. Will Goss, last time by, 123.568. Zach Rogers, 123.669. So Will Goss, advantage to him the last lap in terms of lap times. And the 74 and 38, they're running even faster lap times than the top 2. They might be able to catch up. It might be 4 drivers to settle this thing out, as this next time by, we're at 5 laps to go. For those wondering where Matt McIntyre cycled around, he was 22nd before the pit stops. He gained 2 spots with the strategy of staying out the extra lap. Last time by, crossed in the 20th position. Looks like William Brock's returned to the track. I think. Got him scored a lap down. Is he back on track here, or is he still on pit road? I think he's back on track. Not sure where he is, though. 39 of Kat Batson's on pit lane, and she's got some front-end damage there on the right front. Looks like they're doing some work on that. They're not showing William Brock is out of the race, but I don't know where the 88 is. Oh, there he is. Oh, Adam Garcia in the 2 on pit lane, and he was up inside of the top 10 when things cycled around, so trouble for him. As I've just now noticed, we didn't have the ticker up this whole time. Last time by, 2 100s quicker for Will Goss on Zach Rogers. And it's now 4 laps to go here at the Charlotte Roval. That's a tough break there for Garcia. 10th in points coming to this race, had a good run back at Dover, jumped up 9 spots in the standings, and now going to lose spots after this one. 3-time winner in the Duracell Cup Series back in Season 4. This battle for 5th's been fun to watch. Nogueira and Rodriguez. It's more Rodriguez trying to pressure Nogueira to make a mistake rather than try and make a move. Matt Rod right now really just has to worry about Will Goss, who he currently is 22 points behind. Will in 2nd place, Rodriguez in 6th, so he would lose some points to driver 98, who really broke late into the chicane there, did Will Goss, in his attempt to close up the gap between himself and Zach Rogers. But with 2 races remaining after this, it could potentially be a Will Goss versus Matthew Rodriguez battle for the championship. But then again, we mentioned Zach Rogers. He was 24th in points coming to this race, only 53 points out. He's going to gain a huge chunk if he's able to pick up this victory today. He's already locked up the bonus point for most laps led. He's the only driver that's led so far today, so nobody else would end up getting a bonus point for even 1 lap led. It's a matter of closing it out for the victory, as that last time by, Will Goss closed up the gap even more. It was about a little less than 1.2 seconds between Zach Rogers back to Will Goss. Now, if Will catches Zach Rogers, that's great. But can he pass him is the question. Zach Rogers has had a couple of challenges today from Alexander Rowe in the first half of this event, but Rowe was not able to culminate anything to be able to generate a pass. Maybe Will Goss would be content to ride in 2nd place and get a good points day. Who knows? The race is going to be longer for the Duracell Cup Series primary drivers in just a few moments, as Rogers slipped through the backstretch chicane. You saw him almost hit that paint through the center of the chicane, and that is going to allow Will Goss to close even more. It's going to start wearing down those Goodyears as well on the 55 car. But you can bet the Duracell Cup Series primary drivers have been up on the haulers or watching the television screens, seeing what these drivers are dealing with in their preparation for their upcoming race in just a moment, which is going to be set, as we've always said, by the finishing results of the showcase race. As less than 2 to go, and Will Goss is there. And maybe Alexander Rowe and Jordan Lopez have a shot of getting up here as well. They can see the race leaders, but they may have needed an extra lap or 2 to be able to get up in the same zip code. We'll see, though. Really all depends on what those 2 are able to do draft-wise down the Speedway backstretch. an update. William Brock has retired out of the race. 42nd, Adam Garcia also out of the race in 41st. Everybody else is on the lead lap. Ooh, Rogers, a little better that time through the chicane. But Will Goss is right there with him, and then nose to tail, Alexander Rowe and Jordan Lopez. It's 3 Fords chasing a Mazda. As this time by, the white flag will be displayed for Zach Rogers, trying to go coast to coast, pole to win. Trying to get Mazda its first victory in a showcase race. Nick Gunther's already got a checkered flag for Mazda in a main event race at Sonoma. Project car out of Fortnite Squad Racing. First manufacturer in the Duracell Cup Series outside of Toyota, Ford, Chevy, or Dodge. And Will Goss, if a mistake is made, is right there. Battle maybe for third. Lopez showed the nose going into turn 5, but not able to make the move on Alexander Rowe. Slightly different exits out of turn 6 into 7. Looks like Rowe was a little bit better through that section. We'll see if he can gap Jordan Lopez through speedway turns 1 and 2 onto the back straightaway. Will Goss, if he's going to make a move, it's going to have to be here. He's going to have to get a big run down the backstretch and into the chicane, or hope that Zach Rogers makes a mistake. Let's see if the 55 can plant it. Nice corner there for Zach Rogers. Back into the throttle. Maintains the gap between himself and Will Goss. Zach Rogers has driven a flawless race here today. He's dominated from the pole, led every single lap. And he's going to come through the final chicane and head for home. Will Goss, one last effort. Nope, didn't even dive bomb in that final corner. Zach Rogers is going to win the third showcase race of the season here today at the Charlotte Roval. Will Goss is going to get second, the points leader. Alexander Rowe, Jordan Lopez, and Tatiana Noguera is going to hang on over Matthew Rodriguez for the final spot inside of the top 5. So Zach Rogers is going to give Nick Gunther the pole position for the upcoming main event. Gunther and RJ Bishop will be the front row starters, with Rogers and Goss finishing in first and second. Going to be a good points day for Zach Rogers, but an even better points day for Will Goss, as Tyler Gerardis and Logan Williams and Kat Batson, drivers behind him in points, did not get the performances they were looking for here today. The highest finishing of those 3 drivers was Logan Williams, who finished in 20th. Standings, I believe, should be official now. We're waiting for everybody to cross the start-finish line. Nope, they're not yet official. Now they are. Right on time. Gave you the top 5. Rodriguez in 6th, Bradley Reams 7th, Harrison Ponder, Mike Tellier, and Nick Barney completed the top 10. But the drivers that we are looking at right now that finished in the top 10, only 2 of them started outside of the top 10. Mike Tellier started 12th, and Barney started 16th. Everybody else that finished up inside the top 10 started up inside the top 10. Samet Ozkan, Tristan Allen in 11th and 12th. David Dixon 13th. Austin Colano could have a pretty good points day as he finished in 14th. Jack Mitchell fell to 15th. Benny Watson finished in 16th place. Benny started 24th. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he started pretty deep in the field, so he picked up some good spots during the course of this race. Kyle Langland in 18th. 19th for Nathan Hudson. Matt McIntyre with the strategy call. He got 19th, and Logan Williams finished back, as mentioned, in the 20th position. Look at drivers that came into this race. Top 10 in the point standings did not get the runs they were looking for, starting with Colin Cropley, finishing in 23rd. Charles Belding back in 33rd. Tyler Gerardis, he started 40th, worked his way, or 41st rather, worked his way up to 34th in the final results, but he is going to lose touch with the points lead. And then a couple that are really going to take big hits in the point standings would be Kat Batson and Adam Garcia. Kat Batson finishes on the lead lap in 38th, and Garcia does not see the conclusion of this race in 41st. William Brock also out of the race before the conclusion in the 42nd position, and that's going to be bad news for drivers Dylan Young and Jack Dunnard, because they will start on the final row for the upcoming main event race. But Zach Rogers back to victory lane, this time in a showcase race, as he takes the checkered flag here today at the Charlotte Roval. Don't go anywhere, folks. The finishing results from the showcase race determines the starting lineup for the upcoming main event. The drivers are just now getting their cars rolled out onto the grid on pit lane. We'll step aside for a quick commercial break. We can be back here for the action, continuing today at the Charlotte Roval. Welcome back to the Charlotte Roval as we prepare ourselves for the 20th race of the season, the points-paying main event race now, set to get underway. 22 laps of racing here, and again the lineup that you see on the right side of your screen based off the finishing results from the showcase race that just finished up moments ago. You'll also see your playoffs coming into this race. Destin Bolin, Keith Batson, and Mitchell Collins, the multi-time winners on the season. Batson, of course, getting his second win on the season last week and moves him up into the number 2 seed. Norman, Fitzwater, Gunther, Howard, Bishop, Rick Johnson, Kyle Matthews, Quentin Moore. Right now, the former winners up inside of the top 30. Joshua Osborne's dropped back down outside the top 30 in points. He's 2 points behind the cut line. Chris Dollerton is 19 points behind the cut line. Jack Dunnard is 23 points behind the cut line, and Daniel Voiles is 40 points behind the cut line. They'll all try to make their way, if not into the top 30, at least close to the top 30 here in points in preparation for next week in the Bluegrass State at Kentucky. And the previous winners of this event, we ran this venue from seasons 1 to 4. Last year it got replaced by Road America, but 2 drivers, former winners in the field here today. Jesse Turner won this event back in the very first season, season 1. Michael Norman in what was back-to-back wins in back-to-back weeks for him in season 3. Took the checkered flag here at the Roval. And we saw the other 2 former winners in the showcase race earlier on. Cole Baker, who won this event in season 2, and Jacob Thibodeau, who won this event in season 4. Thibodeau finished, I believe it was 21st. Yep, 21st in the showcase race. And Cole Baker finished in 30th. For those that are wondering, that Road America race last season that replaced the Charlotte Roval, it was Cody Lamas who went to victory lane. And Cody's got pretty good starting track position here today, rolling off from the 9th position. Well, by virtue of Zach Rogers winning the showcase race, Nick Gunther's Mazda lines up on the pole position alongside of RJ Bishop's Ford, both former winners this season, and looking for their second win on the year as Nick Gunther leads us to the start-finish line, and we are racing at the Roval, 22 laps here today in Charlotte. And R.J. Bishop is going to take the race lead from Nick Gunther. Jose Mills in a good battle with Benjamin Snyder for third place, as just a couple of weeks removed from his first career win at the Chicago Motor Speedway, R.J. Bishop out in clean air. Snyder's going to take third from Mills. And Rob Evans looking on in the 5th position. Austin LaPlante, Cody Lamas. This right now would be for 7th. Looks like Cody's going to take it out of Speedway Turn 2. Much like in the earlier showcase race, no cautions during the course of this 22-lap event, local yellows only. And so therefore, if trouble happens, you'll see it courtesy of the NNSCRA split cam. Lap 1 complete. R.J. Bishop will lead it. Nick Gunther right behind him in 2nd. That battle for 3rd continues to brew. Jose Mills closing in on Benjamin Snyder. You look up here at some of the drivers we've got inside of this top 5 and a lot of road course prowess. Nick Gunther, of course, winning at Sonoma. Benjamin Snyder, we thought was going to win that Sonoma race, but got a late race penalty. Still finished 5th in that one. And right behind them, you've got Rob Evans in the 65. Don't sleep on Rob Evans. Evans has a non-charter road course victory back in Season 4 at the Indianapolis Road Course. And looking for what would be Evans Gardner Motorsports' 2nd team win on the season, following up the Indianapolis win that Zachary Fitzwater had earlier on this season. Speaking of Fitzwater, started pretty deep in the field, back in 30th position, but came into this race still in control of the rookie points lead. Now 9 points over Rick Johnson. No, correction, 11 points. 11 points over Rick Johnson and 12 points over William Hoer. So beginning to gap for that rookie points lead is driver 66 as R.J. Bishop puts another lap on the board. Fuel window's going to be about the same as it was for the showcase drivers, as you got a car right there you saw on the opposite side of the wall. That was Caleb Fogler in the 28. Looks like he's already run into some issues. The whole front end of that car has been taken off. You guys will see what happened to him courtesy of NNSCRA split cam, but one of the co-defending champions struggling in the early going of this one. Fogler 33rd in points, didn't have a good run last week as he dropped 7 spots in the standings. Oh, and a car just got in the wall back here inside the top 5. Was that Snyder or was that Mills? I heard it. Can't see about visible damage until they come out of this corner here. It was definitely Snyder. Definitely Snyder. You can see the right side damage, and now the question is, can they just ride it out until the upcoming pit stop, or is that going to be a hard enough hit that he's going to have to come to pit road? We saw in the showcase race a lot of slipping and sliding around, especially from turn 5 over to turn 7. A couple of drivers off the racing surface as a result, including William Brock and Adam Garcia. Subsequently, they finished in 40th and 41st and 42nd in the showcase race, putting Dylan Young and Jack Donard back in quite a bit of traffic. Here's our 3-time winner, Destin Bolin. He's in the 9th position right now, trying to hold off Levi McIntyre. Destin 16th in overall points. Currently still holding the #1 seed, but a little bit of pressure now on him for that, because both Mitchell Collins, actually no, I should just say Keith Batson is ahead of him in the point standings. Mitchell Collins is 2 positions back in 18th. Batson's 3rd in overall points, and so if Keith Batson were to go to victory lane a 3rd time here in the regular season, he would then move up to the #1 seed. Nathan Ormond, the bubble driver, coming into this race, currently holding the final spot in the playoffs via points with all the drivers we've got underneath 30th in the standings. Only 3 points behind Ryan Butcher. And then not too far behind them, you got Jesse Turner, the inaugural winner here at the Charlotte Roval back in Season 1. He's right now in the 14th position. There's Laura Chung. Gave it a really good try last week against Keith Batson. Almost pulled off that victory as, Nathan Orman's going to get the wall as he tried to take it double wide with Mitchell Collins through the final chicane. And he's got some right side damage now on that Disney Plus Ford Mustang. Stacked him up behind him. Benjamin Miles now to the inside of Jesse Turner. Ali Liera right there as well. Kyle Matthews, just recently last week, moved his way up into the top 30 in points once again, into a playoff position. Miles will take the spot from Turner, and now Liera will look to do the same. Treacherous part of the track right here. Turner might be able to get back to the throttle. Pushed up a little, almost got into the safer barrier. And Liera might be clear. Yes, she is. She will take that spot. So that is, I believe, 15th position that Liera just moved into. Miles now up to 14th, dropping Turner back to 16th. And, Turner wants the spot back. Drove it in deep, but he's going to slide, and that's going to cost him more positions. Here comes Kyle Matthews to take advantage of that slip-up. And Joshua Osborne right there as well. At the front, RJ Bishop has gapped Nick Gunther by over a second. This is going to be tight into the final chicane. Turner has to back out of it, and Osborne was looking to take the spot from him. I don't know if he'll be able to or not. Turner is going to have to lift a little more here going into the left-hand turn 1. And Osborne is going to take the spot going into this right-hander. So Turner's lost about 3 or 4 positions in the last lap and a half or so. Further up front, Cody Lamas now into 7th, trying to hold off the 48 of Austin LaPlante. There's the gap from RJ Bishop back to Nick Gunther, and do I see right side damage on the 98? Looks like he's gotten into the wall at some point. Yes, he has. Oh boy, that's huge. And why is that such a big deal? Because we know that that pit stop's coming up that these drivers are going to have to make. It's going to be really up to the crew chief and the driver based off of the handling and the speed pre and post contact with wherever he ended up hitting, of whether they're going to want to spend the extra time on pit road repairing that damage. Nick Gunther and Benjamin Snyder rekindling their battle from Sonoma earlier on this season, but this time it's for 2nd place. Snyder a little wide in that corner, and that's going to allow Jose Mills to close back up. Well, we did it earlier in the showcase race. Let's do it here in the main event race. Let's take an onboard of how to get around this Charlotte Roval with maybe one of the best road course racers in the field, the 55 Mazda of Nick Gunther. There's just so much off the throttle time, especially in the infield section. You're literally coasting through the corners, and a big reason for that is you can't really power down because there's not a lot of banking. It's very flat. There's a little bit of an elevation change as well when you go from turns 4 and 5 over to 6 and 7, which I think is a reason why we've seen a couple of drivers get the right side wall before they get onto the speedway section, because there's that little extra dip, and so you carry a little bit of extra speed and have to compensate for that. But especially, too, as we get longer into a run, the tires wear down, the grip goes away, and you've got to back your corners up and play with the throttle even more. Looks like Nick Gunther might, the last couple of laps, been a tick quicker than RJ Bishop. Last time by, RJ ran a 124.330. Gunther ran a 124.142. So yeah, he's about 0.2 quicker that last lap and might be able to start reeling in the 98 car. RJ looking for his second career victory in his last 3 starts. He won 2 weeks ago at the Chicago Motor Speedway. Ford has been on fire actually the last couple of weeks. Got Batson, who won last week at New Hampshire, and of course Bishop, who won the week prior at the Chicago Motor Speedway. Dustin Bolin, Michael Norman, they've all recently been to victory lane. You got the Chevrolet of Quentin Moore, who's been able to kind of break up their streak. Speaking of Ford, let's give a little love to the rookie Samuel Ryder. Bradley Ream finished 7th here in the showcase race, so Ryder has picked up 1 spot since rolling off the grid, trying to close in on the top 5, and I'm not certain. Let me check. No, Samuel Ryder has never had a top 5 yet. He's got 1 top 10. So this could be potentially, I don't remember where he finished with that top 10. It obviously wasn't inside the top 5. This might be, if he's able to hold down where he is, this might be his best finish of his career so far. A couple more drivers I've noticed have run into some issues. There's the 02 of Jessica Shelton. Right now she is scored last car running on the lead lap in the 42nd position. And James Qualls is way back here, trying to get around the 28 of Caleb Fogler, who we already saw what happened to him in the early going. Qualls, remember, came into this race in the 14th seed, 3rd highest driver in points without a victory, 5th in overall standings. So this is not good for either Qualls or Shelton. As the 24 of Reggie Fogelman, just coming off pit road. Not certain if that was a regularly scheduled stop or not. There's your points leader way back here, Michael Norman in the 22. And he rolled off the grid 23rd, so he had to have had something happen to put him this far back. And just up ahead of him is the 2 of Dylan Young. It's 37th and 38th you're looking at. There's Carson Gum, who just recently worked his way back into the top 30 in points last week at New Hampshire. Holds that 30th position, and he's right now back in 36th. Winner from last week, Keith Batson, not faring much better. He's in 33rd place. And Jack Dunnard, who's still below the cut line, right now in 35th place, but he has actually moved up the grid from where he started. He started dead last, and now he's coming to pit road. We saw his Northeast Motorsports teammate, Reggie Fogelman, on pit lane the lap prior, and looks like, is there some left side damage on the Budweiser Chevy, perhaps? They are going to change tires. Nathan Norman's also on pit lane. And remember, we saw that he had some damage. I believe, though, that these pit stops these drivers are making, it's within the fuel window that they should be able to make it the rest of the way. So I believe these are regularly scheduled stops for at least a few of these drivers. I don't know exactly when James Qualls and Jessica Shelton came to pit road, so I don't know if they are within their fuel window or not, or if they'd have to make one more pit stop before the conclusion. Think about Jessica Shelton and the Charlotte Roval. They have a history with each other. The race that Jacob Thibodeau won back in Season 4, Jessica Shelton really, in all probability, should have won that race. She had the strongest car. She was out in front for a good portion of that event, and then caution came out, and she ended up having some kind of problem with the fuel pickup and was not able to close out the deal. That was a tough year. That was a tough playoffs for Jessica Shelton, because the week prior at Richmond, that was another race that she probably should have won, and Dylan Young, if I recall correctly, ended up winning that event. Charlotte Roval, as mentioned, was replaced last year on the schedule by Road America. Prior to that, from seasons 1 through 4, it was the second playoff race, the middle race of the round of 16. But now getting moved up here on the schedule to a regular season race, and leaving us after today with only 6 more races for drivers to try and either win or point their way into the postseason, as Cody Lamas closes up on the back bumper of Samuel Ryder, who he slips up though through the chicane. This was a battle for 6th, and it looks like there might be, my eyes might be deceiving me, but I think I saw a little bit of right side damage on the McDonald's Ford. Dustin Boland's coming in the 12. The Maxwell House Ford out of Young Motorsports, and also the 16 of Ali Liera makes the dive onto pit road. This is coming to 11 laps to go. Well, actually now it's 10 laps to go. Oh, the race leader was in. I didn't even notice that. RJ Bishop dove onto pit lane, giving up the race lead to the 55 of Nick Gunther. So we might see these drivers on pit road within the next lap or 2. Again, the question of, are they going to spend time repairing or at least buffing out that right side on the 98? Nick Gunther does not appear to have any damage on his machine. Benjamin Snyder, we know, ended up getting the wall in the first couple laps over there in, I think that was turn 7. Jose Mills in the 38 there, though. I think he's relatively clean. Rob Evans, I think, is clean. There is some right side damage on the 63 of Samuel Ryder, so we'll see how this all shakes out. We'll also see, for drivers like James Qualls, Jessica Shelton, who have already been to pit road, if they can make it the rest of the way, where will they cycle out? As Gunther's not coming to pit road yet. Is anybody this lap coming in? Yes, Cody Lamas and Austin LaPlante, Benjamin Miles, and Kyle Matthews are all going to pit this time. That is 6th, 7th, 11th, and 13th coming to pit lane this time. Michael Norman in the 22 is on pit lane. Dylan Young, Jack Dunnard mixing it up here for position. Dunnard had just recently been to pit road. Dylan Young, I don't know if he's pitted yet or not. Yes, he has. It's Keith Batson, the 39. He is pit. So too is Anthony McCurry. As a matter of fact, if I go down the list right now, outside of those that we saw come to pit road this lap, those that have come to pit road include Reggie Fogelman, James Qualls, Reese Banks, Quentin Moore, Chris Dollerton, Nathan Ormond, Anthony McCurry, Keith Batson, Dylan Young, Jack Dunnard, Michael Norman, and Jessica Shelton. But it looks like an extended stay for the 22 of Michael Norman. Either that or he's just waiting for things to cycle around because he's being scored a lap down. Granted, he was at the very tail end of the field pretty much. So by the time he came to pit road, Gunther probably came around to lap him. When Gunther comes to pit road, Michael should cycle back onto the tail end of the lead lap. 55's coming in this time. Looks like just about everybody else is going to come down this lap. There's Laura Chung, last week's runner-up finisher, to Keith Batson at New Hampshire. Collins, McIntyre, Osborne's in, William Hoer is in. Got a few others back here that still haven't come to pit road, and they're coming in this time. Voiles, Matt Haas, Hendrickson, Fitzwater, Cole Deaver, and somewhere back there is Dylan Poteet. I think he's the last one that we're waiting on. Unless he's already pitted. There's Dylan. Oh, maybe he already pit. Maybe my scoring hasn't updated yet. Unless he was just that far back. Let's see if he comes to pit road here or if he's already made his pit stop. And he's staying out. So I guess Poteet had already pit. Scoring hadn't updated itself yet. Oh, Michael Norman's still sitting on pit road. So it's something more sinister than just a lengthy pit stop. As look at this. RJ Bishop's not going to come out with the race lead. It's going to be Nick Gunther who's going to be the race leader. Benjamin Snyder will be second. Cody Lamas is going to be up to third with Destin Bolin now in fourth place. Rob Evans in fifth. Sixth, Samuel Ryder. And then Bishop's going to cycle around in seventh after leading the first 11 laps of this race. It's like 8th, 9th, and 10th. Right now, it's going to be McIntyre, LaPlante, and Liera. Cody Lamas for second on Snyder. Trying to fake the 74 out there through the chicane. Can he make the move here? Through the NASCAR 3 and 4. Trying to get a run as they're trying to reel in the 55 of Nick Gunther. Zach Rogers went coast to coast, pole to win in the showcase race earlier on today, leading all 17 laps. Nick Gunther just now, after RJ Bishop gave up the lead to come to pit road, finally out in front and leading some laps. He just completed his fourth lap out in front. Trying to go coast to coast here as well. It'd be the second time that a showcase driver and a main event driver have gone coast to coast pole to win. Quentin Moore did it with Tyler Gerdes back at Dover. As last time by, Nick Gunther was about a 10th quicker than Benjamin Snyder. And then, of course, Cody Lamas and Destin Bolin kind of having to adhere to the speed of the 74 car. Trying to see if I can tell if they repaired that damage on the right side of the 74 or not. Maybe we'll see through this corner. Looks like they did actually repair it a bit. As Bolin tried to get third from Cody through the chicane. We're going to be checking on lap times here, as next time by at the line it will be 6 laps to go. Can Benjamin Snyder reel in Nick Gunther? And if he can, what can he do with him? Michael Norman's back on track. 2 laps down. And the 22 car, points leader coming into this race, had 8 points over Matt Haas. Right now, Matt is running in the 30th position. And nobody was really within striking distance of taking the points lead other than those two. The next highest in points was 67 points out, Keith Batson. So I don't think that we're going to see anyone third place on down be able to get up there to the points lead today. You saw James Qualls back on pit road, so I think he and Jessica Shelton, they were two drivers that were going to have to make 2 pit stops here after having to come to pit road earlier on in this race. But with Michael down in 42nd and Matt Haas actually picked up another spot, scoring sane up to 29th. Matt Haas will have the points lead heading into next week, which will be in the Bluegrass State. We're going 1.5 mile racing at the Kentucky Speedway. That'll be race number 21 on the season. Leaving us 6 races left to determine who's getting into the playoffs. Well, this Mazda team out of Fortnite Squad Racing just continues to rack up historic moments on their resume. Debut season for the manufacturer in Duracell Cup Series competition. Nick Gunther ended up leading first career lap for a Mazda. He got the first top 10, he got the first top 5, and then he went to victory lane at Sonoma for Mazda's first ever win in Duracell Cup Series history. Zach Rogers earlier on today got Mazda their first showcase win, and now Nick Gunther is trying to be the first non-Ford to be a multi-time winner here this season. So far, the 3 multi-time winners, Bolin, Batson, and Collins, all drive Mustangs. Benjamin Snyder. His lap time still a tenth slower than Nick Gunther. Cody Lamas getting held up perhaps here by the 74. I don't know if he's got a fast enough car, if he had gotten clear of Snyder to get up there and battle with Nick Gunther or not. Remember, Cody was the defending winner of this weekend, if you will, when the Charlotte Roval got replaced by Road America last season. Still going to be a good points day, though, for Cody Lamas and Benjamin Snyder if they can hang on to these spots. Snyder 27th in the point standings, and Cody Lamas is 41st, so going to be a well-needed run for driver 13. Moving over to that single car entry for Lama Racing, and been very impressed with the 65 of Rob Evans here today, en route to picking up a top 5. Rob had a great run last week at New Hampshire, jumped up 8 spots to 21st in the standings, so you're looking at drivers right now that if they're not able to find victory lane, they're certainly trying to get themselves up there around the top 10, top 15 in points to maybe point their way into a playoff spot. And Rob Evans right now would appear to be one of those drivers. Rob's actually looking for his first top 5 on the season. Right now, he is in line to do so. Rob Evans, Jose Mills, Cole Deaver, Samuel Ryder, and Benjamin Miles are all drivers that still have not gotten the top 5 yet this season. There's Ryder just outside of the top 5 in 7th place, and RJ Bishop, our winner from a couple of weeks ago, was looking like it was his race to lose, and somehow they lost it on pit road. Dropped all the way back to 7th position. He picked up 1 spot from Samuel Ryder back up to 6th, but might be a little bit of a team meeting for the pit crew here when this race is over. Levi McIntyre actually dropped out of a playoff position after a poor performance last week at New Hampshire. He might be able to get himself back up into the playoff grid heading into next week, as he's currently running ahead of drivers such as Ryan Butcher and Nathan Ormond. Only time will tell with that, as he's in 8th. Austin LaPlante, solid run today here in 9th. Northeast Motorsports was the defending team that went to victory lane here with Jacob Thibodeau back in Season 4. And LaPlante doing a good job here today in the 9th position. And then Ali Liera, another driver kind of like Levi McIntyre, just below that cut line for the playoffs to point her way in. But doing a good job here today. Solid pit stop, and right now in the 10th position. Kyle Matthews, 9 spots he gained in the point standings after last week in New Hampshire. Back up in the top 30 in points, and might not be able to get that 10th position away from Ali Liera, but definitely going to continue to climb up through the point standings in preparation of locking himself up a spot in the playoffs in an attempt to defend his title, as 2 laps to go for Nick Gunther. Nick is looking for his 3rd career Duracell Cup Series victory. Last year, won at Bristol Dirt, which then locked him as well as his teammates Mike Tellier and Anthony McCrory into the playoffs, and the 55 team then for Gunther Motorsports. Battle continues for 2nd. It's the closest battle we've got up inside of our top 5, but it just does not look like Cody Lamas has the car to be able to get around Benjamin Snyder. There's going to be a lot of drivers that are going to suffer here today from poor performances. James Qualls, he might end up falling out of a playoff position depending on where all the other drivers finish. He's 40th right now. Caleb Vogler, I don't know what's going on with that team, but they dropped 7 spots in the standings last week after New Hampshire, and right now they are the last car in the lead lap in 41st. After they had that front end damage, Cole Deaver, not the run that he was looking for. As a matter of fact, most of the S3 Motorsports cars are going to be not getting good runs here today. Charles Sanford's in 27th. Deaver's down in 37th. Shelton 39th. Kyle Matthews is the only one right now that's up there, even in the vicinity of the top 10. As mentioned, he's in the 11th position. As you saw the white flag displayed over the Square D Mazda of Nick Gunther. And he's got a pretty handy 2-second lead back to Benjamin Snyder. Well, as we continue to have former winners going to victory lane, that is continuing to help drivers in their venture to point their way into the playoffs. Destin Bolin with 3 victories, Keith Batson with 2, Mitchell Collins with 2. And barring anything happening here on this final half lap, Nick Gunther will become the 4th multi-time winner on the season. Osborne might move back into the top 30 in points. He's currently scored in 17th. I don't think that Dollarton or Dunnard or Voiles will move back into the top 30 in the point standings, so we could have, what would it be, 4 spots available for drivers to point their way in as far as the playoff grid would look heading into next week. But Nick Gunther, the history continues to be made here in Duracell Cup Series competition. Mazda is about to become a multi-time winner as Nick Gunther wins at the Charlotte Roval. First non-Ford to get multiple wins on the season. And based on where he is in the point standings, Nick Gunther could either be the number 3 or maybe even number 2 seed heading into Kentucky. It all depends on where he is in overall points in relation to Keith Batson. I think those two were separated by 29 points coming into this race. Keith ended up finishing in 37th. So yeah, I think Nick Gunther may be the number 2 seed heading into Kentucky as far as the playoff grid is concerned. There's Batson crossing the line, Michael Norman, and I believe we're waiting on a couple more. Dunnard and Dylan Young, I think, are the last 2, and now the standings should be official. Nope, not yet. We were waiting on the 28 of Caleb Fogler. Now standings are official. And Nick Gunther picks up his 3rd career victory, 2nd of the season, and 2nd for the Mazda Project team out of Fortnite Squad Racing. Benjamin Snyder, he's had some good numbers at road courses as well. Had the 5th at Sonoma and 2nd here today. Cody Lamas brings it home for his best finish on the season. Of 3rd, Destin Bolin, the 3-time winner there in 4th. And Rob Evans gets his first top 5 of the season, as he will finish in 5th. RJ Bishop led the first 11 laps of this race, but he will finish in 6th after a slow pit stop. Samuel Ryder in 7th, Levi McIntyre 8th, Austin LaPlante and Ali Lierick complete the top 10. Kyle Matthews, Mitchell Collins, Jose Mills, Laura Chung, and Benjamin Miles. That's the top 15. Laura Chung in that 77. Keep an eye on her. She jumped up 10 spots in the standings last week, came into this race 20th in points after the runner-up finish at New Hampshire, and a top 15 here today. She might be making some strides up there in an attempt to get into the playoffs, maybe via points. And Joshua Osborne there in that 17th position. It'll be interesting to see if 17th is enough for him to work his way up into the top 30 in points. He did finish ahead of Anthony McCrory and Carson Gum, who were the next 2 drivers ahead of him in points. I think he also finished ahead of Quentin Moore. So I believe he has pointed his way up into the top 30. So our Pocono winner is once again back above the cut line, but he's kind of been limboing back and forth, above, below the last couple of weeks. But if my calculations are correct, with Gunther getting his 2nd win of the season and Osborne moving back into the top 30 in points, that means that 12 drivers right now occupy spots in the playoffs via win, leaving 4 spots available for drivers to point their way into the playoffs. But still a long ways to go. We still got 6 more races at 6 very difficult racetracks. Still have that possibility of Dollarton, Dunnard, and Voiles being able to maybe point their way back up into the top 30 in points, all former winners. And there's certainly, it's not outside the realm of possibility that in these next 6 races, we could have 6 more drivers, 6 more different drivers go to victory lane. But only time will tell. Congratulations to Nick Gunther on the victory here today. Mazda's 2nd win in their Duracell Cup Series history. Gunther's 2nd win on the season, 3rd of his career, and more than likely jumping into the number 2 seed, all but confirming that he will be battling for the championship here this season. If you guys enjoyed today's races from the Charlotte Roval, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, part of the crew today. We have shown you your full finisher results, and these are what the point standings look like heading into Kentucky next week. It was all Mazda today. Zach Rogers, coast to coast. Nick Gunther, coast to coast, putting the Mazdas in victory lane for the Showcase and the main event race. Until next week at Kentucky, I've been Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of NNSCRA TV, offline racing at its best.